My girlfriend Emily is a food content creator. She loves what she does, and her food is always tasty. It would always be fully booked if she decided to open a restaurant. She doesn't do professional catering, but prefers preparing food for family and friends. For a little context, a few weeks ago, my sister Paige wanted to host a dinner party for her friends and family. 8 guests. She asked Emily to help her design an elaborate course menu. Actually, this turned into Paige hiring Emily for a night to prepare and cook all the meals. Each paid half the agreed amount and promised to pay the remaining balance by a specific date. Emily spent days prepping, cooking, cleaning, etc. to ensure the perfect dinner. She spent the entire day at their house preparing and helped Paige clean the house in preparation for the guests. At first, she says that she was overwhelmed, but nothing she couldn't handle. She was alone working in the kitchen. The guests arrived almost 2 hours earlier than Emily was expecting. According to Emily, my brother-in-law sister's husband started to brag about the new exotic maid they hired because of the event. He went on mentioning how hard it was to understand their maid because of her accent or how obedient she was. My sister lives in an open-plan style house, so Emily could hear all of these things in the kitchen. Emily was incredibly uncomfortable the entire time. As soon as she finished, she left. I asked Paige and my brother-in-law to apologize, but they refused. And to make it worse, Paige has not paid Emily the rest of her promised money. Every time we call, text, email, etc., she ignores us. I assumed that they had blocked us on all social media, messages, etc. It's gross, and I'm so upset with them. A couple of days ago, Emily posted a new food-related video. It was very good and looked very tasty. About 2 hours later, my sister and her husband are outside of my door in the pouring rain, asking me to come in. I was confused, but I assumed that maybe this was their way of apologizing. So I didn't let them in. I opened the door a little. I was wrong. Paige mentioned how she saw Emily's post and wanted to come and try it for herself. I was stunned. Not only was I disappointed in them for not apologizing or paying Emily, but I was also shocked by the ridiculousness of their thought process, and that they would show up for free food like nothing. This happened, ignoring the fact that Emily doesn't upload her content on the same day she makes it. I'd asked Paige or my brother-in-law to apologize, and when it was clear that they were making excuses, I said goodbye and shut the door in their face. They sat outside with no umbrella or rain jacket for almost an hour, calling our names and spamming our doorbell. I got a call from my brother-in-law demanding that I apologize because I got Paige sick. Emily thinks I may have been a bit too petty. Well, her audacity to then show up to taste her new dish is beyond. But they didn't pay the girlfriend and then expected to be able to continue enjoying her food. Karma got Paige sick. Hopefully, karma convinces Paige to become a human being, not the idiot. You didn't leave them in the rain. I chose to stay in the rain to yell at you. They were perfectly able to leave and get out of the rain. They cannot blame you for their choices. As for Emily's payment, taking them to small claims court might be necessary. And is if she thinks it's worth it. I'd really like to know what their thought process is. Their hour in the rain when they could have just left or not shown up in the first place. And please update us if anything else happens. At Calmsy Istio, I wish nothing would happen, but judging by how they've acted so far, other funky things are bound to come up. Watch out for flying monkeys too. Maybe you want to make a preemptive attack before the following shenanigans. I'm shocked he answered the door at all. Exotic maid, indeed. Dude, I think it's time to go no contact. This is some deranged manipulative behavior. That's on top of everything else they've done, which you already call gross. They could have immediately gone home. But they actively put themselves in a position to get sick to try and punish you. Take them to small claims court. Post screenshots of the unpaid balance or texts from them that show their true colors if you want. But man, cut them out. Emily sounds more like a doormat than the bigger person. You might want to talk to Emily about standing up for herself and why she doesn't do it. It could be any number of reasons, from conflict avoidance to low self-esteem. But regardless of the reason, she's consistently undervaluing herself, which isn't healthy. My husband, 24, and I, 24, a female, have been together for 6 years and married for 5. When I was 19, I discovered I was pregnant with my husband. Elementary at the time, we were both quite religious and decided to drop out of college to get married and raise our children. We married in a courthouse and held a small reception barbecue in my parents' backyard. It was small and thrown together, but I remember it fondly. We've struggled financially for almost our entire marriage. I managed to finish hair school and work as a hairdresser, while my husband has a decent insurance agent job. This would be plenty, but we had twins during our first pregnancy and welcomed our third child 6 months ago, which has just made our financial situation tighter. My husband is a huge hopeless romantic, and even though he's never said anything, I know he's disappointed with how our wedding and marriage turned out. He's always said that he wants to renew our vows with a bigger, more elaborate wedding. He has always said that he wants us to have another wedding someday. I've told him we probably won't have enough money for a long time, to which he always says I'm being negative. Recently, we celebrated our 5th anniversary. My husband made a delicious meal before we went to the beach to watch the sunset and drink champagne. While on the beach, my husband proposed with a beautiful engagement ring. He explained that it was a promise that someday we'd have that do-over wedding. I asked him as calmly as I could how much the ring cost. He told me it was a $5,000 ring. I was furious. We barely make it by, and $5,000 is a lot of money to waste on a promise. We haven't been able to put aside any money for our children to go to college, buy a house, or our retirement. So I asked him how the heck he got this much money, and he said he's been putting money aside for years, which just made me angrier. I demanded he returns the ring, and then we could discuss what to do with the money. He argued, but he ended up agreeing to return the ring. About $1,000 aside for each of the kids and $1,000 for our retirement, and save the extra $1,000 for a rainy day. I think this was the right thing to do with the money, But my husband has been cranky and making snarky comments about how I always have to be in control. Even though I think I did the best thing in this situation, I feel bad and think I might be the idiot. So am I the idiot? He was so romantic. I can only imagine you all saying that if you had never struggled. All I would see when I looked at that ring was every time we had to decide if there was gas in the car or the electric bill. Every time I had to call up for a bill extension, the sleepless nights and tears over how we're paying for school supplies, how I'm going to make $50 in grocery funds feed 4 people, eating plain bread for lunch, and so on. And all that time, he's been keeping a secret stockpile of money for a hunk of beaten metal and a rock. Instant idiots here, but birth control people, you can't afford your children or rings or university for anyone. All this mess is because of intimacy and babies. Religion also doesn't seem to help much here, as there's no sound of love, appreciation, or kindness on your part. Good luck. I really mean it. My 2 daughters are vegetarian, but my husband and son are not, so I'm probably what they would call a flexitarian. My son and husband always turn up their noses at tofu or any other meat alternatives. They say it's just weird that it's made to resemble real meat. So it's the concept and not the taste. There are no allergies. My family and I often make 2 versions of dinner. 1 meat, 1 vegetarian, and twice the amount of pots and pans. There is an equal distribution of cleaning and cooking in this house, thankfully. My daughters had a fun prank idea of making 2 pots of spaghetti sauce under the pretense that one was meat. Luckily, were both soy ground beef. The goal was to see if their brother and father actually hated the meat and to see if we could save some dishes and time in the future. Everyone loved dinner, and both husband and son finished their plates. This was when my youngest couldn't hold it in anymore and told them. They both got very upset about being fed something other than what they were told. So am I the idiot? This is not a meat eater or vegetarian issue. Tricking someone into eating something other than what they thought they were eating is a massive breach of trust. That the substitution is harmless is irrelevant. That your aim was clearly to shame or embarrass them over their dietary preferences does not help. Would it really be that different if they cooked meat and fed it to your daughters, telling them that it was soy? You are the idiot, OP Day. Stop comparing what OP did with feeding meat to vegetarians. It's not the same at all. Father and son eat vegetables. Vegetarians don't eat meat. Plus, eating animals, aka things that were alive and sentient, is way different than eating plants, things that were never sentient or never felt pain. It's not comparable. However, that doesn't change the fact that the dad and the son have ownership over what they put into their bodies. Just because he eats other veggies doesn't make it okay to trick him into eating something he's explicitly said he doesn't want to eat. My father had my younger sister, Kate, when I was 19 years old. My brother was 23, nearly an adult and a tween at the time. I love her from the bottom of my heart. At the time, she was one of the reasons I kept going in my darkest moment. I was very present in her first and second year of life. My stepmother wanted to push that my father's family was now hers, my father, Kate, and her eldest daughter. She had a huge argument with my older brother that even involved the police. She falsely accused him, and later she was criminally prosecuted for fraud. Because of that fight, I took my brother's side. She cut off all contact I had with Kate, and after 4 years, I never saw her again. My dad sucks, by the way, for staying with her after she had done that, and it wasn't for lack of trying. But I gave up when my dad told me to stop. I didn't have the money to hire a lawyer at the time. When I did have the money, she already expressed that she didn't want to see me, Dad's words. So I didn't do anything else. Recently, at my aunt's funeral, I was reunited with my father and his family. Kate is already a tween. This event brought me closer to my father, a sister who raised him. She was my godmother, and I started to go to his house more. But sometimes I felt that Kate wanted to talk. Tuesday, she finally came to talk to me, asking why her older brothers and I never made a point of being present in her life, and I was heartbroken. The 3 eldest always took care of her, and there were hundreds of photos of us with her. So I arranged to show pictures of me with her as a baby the next day. My attempts to be present, conversations with my father and mother, etc. I told the truth. She didn't have 4 brothers present because her father and mother decided that they only had her and the eldest as a family, not letting us have more contact. Well, Kate freaked out at her parents, saying that they were terrible and that she felt lonely all her life because of them. She never got along with her other sister. My dad yelled at me, saying that I brought up an issue between us as a kid and that I shouldn't have done that. I just accepted victory for getting back in touch. They're angry with me and cut contact, but I'm already looking for legal ways. But I feel bad for bringing up a sensitive subject with her. Am I the idiot? You basically handed a tween a decade of history that alienated her from her parents and left her without a support system to cope with it. 8 deserves the truth, but you didn't consider her emotional age and the impact it would have on her daily. Instead, you shared with her in a way that created the largest emotional response possible. Is it possible you wanted more validation for your own mistreatment than you wanted to offer Kate the truth? Not an idiot. This might be a controversial opinion, but I don't think it's ever wrong to tell kids the truth if their parents are lying to them about important facts. Not talking about Santa or the Easter Bunny. I'd take it. Yeah, it's not your kid, but family in this case. Every human being has a right to know the truth about life, whether it be specific to their life or life in general. Does your father think it's better for a child to hear, "Oh, Kate, my brothers and I never really cared about you"? Apart from it being a total lie, it's not even a kinder story. People who lie to their kids and try to manipulate their relationships with other family members are always shocked when one day the kid is no longer a toddler and finds out the truth. The betrayal is in lying to your child, not in having the truth exposed. I got married 2 weeks ago. I invited my cousin Gaia, her husband, and their 2 sons, toddler and young child. Gia RSVP'd saying she and her husband would attend, but they weren't bringing the boys. Instead, she said they wanted a little getaway. I double-checked this a few times as we put down final deposits and gave the caterer and venue a head count. Gia told us they had already hired a sitter to watch the kids, so it was all good. 2 days before the wedding, Gia calls me to ask about a few particulars regarding the wedding. And towards the end of the call, she says, "Oh, by the way, the boys will be coming." I was taken aback and asked what happened to their sitter. She made a joke about her husband being too cheap to pay for the sitter. We can't afford it. I told her it was too late. We already gave head counts, and per the venue and caterer's policy, last-minute changes would come with a fee on top of the cost of an extra person plate. What have you? Gia got upset and said, "But they were invited." I told her, "Yes, and you declined, so we didn't prepare for them." She said I should just suck it up and pay the additional $200. I'd stood firm, and even though I could have afforded it, it was just going to be more stress added to my plate. On the day of my wedding, they showed up without the kids. Gia said they wouldn't spend the night anymore, and were heading back after. We didn't get a chance to talk. We didn't have a chance to talk much. The day honestly went by so quick. They left before we did, and Gia hasn't responded to my text. My family's not happy with my choice. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This sounds like a case of misplaced anger. The person she should really be angry with is her cheap husband. She probably didn't mind leaving her boys at home, but her husband probably told her to do whatever she could to avoid having to hire a sitter for that day. Give her some space, and sure she'll get over it. This is standard how RSVPs work. Expecting the bride to run around negotiating extra plates with caterers with 2 days' notice is beyond unreasonable. You did nothing wrong. Continue on as normal. She'll get over it or she won't. But she was being outrageous. Ask any family member who tries to defend her why they didn't cover the extra $200 it would have taken for the kids to come. An RSVP exists for a specific reason. She had enough time. The 2 days before the wedding is ridiculous to ask. A bride shouldn't have to go through more stress. This with a cousin like that who needs enemies. I wouldn't worry about having upset her. She doesn't sound like someone worthy of your time, especially since she's now playing the victim.